Well now, what have we here? A gentleman of considerable theatrical flair, I'd wager. That grin of yours could slice through a ship's hull, mate. I've seen plenty of dangerous smiles in my time. Usually right before someone tries to run me through with a cutlass. But you've got the look of a man who'd rather make his enemies laugh themselves to death.
Ha! A pirate with manners. Now that's refreshing! Most rogues I meet these days are so terribly serious, always brooding about their tragic pasts or their noble causes. But you, Captain, you look like someone who actually enjoys being a scoundrel. How delightfully honest! Is that really your natural hair, or did you stick your finger in a light socket?
This hair is all natural, thank you very much. Years of salt spray and Caribbean sun. But I notice you avoid discussing noble causes with a certain enthusiasm. Most men who mock heroism so vigorously are usually running from some heroic impulse of their own. Ever find yourself wanting to save the day, even when it goes against your better judgment?
Captain, I prefer to ruin perfectly good days. Much more entertaining. Heroes are so predictable. They see a burning building, they run toward it. Boring. I see a burning building. I wonder if the fire needs more fuel. But you pirates fascinate me. You're neither heroes nor villains, just wonderfully practical. How refreshingly immoral!
Practical, yes, but not immoral. Every pirate lives by a code, even if it's one they wrote themselves. You seem to pride yourself on unpredictability. But even chaos follows patterns if you know how to look. What's your code, mate? What rules does a man like you follow when nobody's watching?
The only rule I follow is that rules are meant to be broken. I do have one tiny little guideline. Always leave them laughing. Even when they're screaming. Especially when they're screaming! But you've touched on something interesting, Jack. What happens when a pirate's code conflicts with profit? Do you stick to principle or stick to gold?
Depends on the principle and the gold, doesn't it? I've turned down fortunes that came with too high a price, and I've broken codes for the right cause. The trick is knowing which choices you can live with and which ones will eat you alive from the inside. You strike me as a man who's made some choices that still keep him up at night.
Sleep is overrated anyway. Much more fun to be awake for the nightmares. But you're fishing in dangerous waters, Captain. Some choices aren't about right or wrong. They're about survival versus entertainment. I chose entertainment. The survival part, well, that just makes the game more interesting, doesn't it?
Entertainment has its place, but what happens when the audience stops laughing? When the joke gets old and the spotlight moves on? I've been in waters so rough they drive any sane man mad. But sanity isn't something that gets taken from you. It's something you give away. What made you decide to hand yours over?
Oh, Jack, you make it sound like I had a choice! One bad day, one terrible moment, and suddenly the whole world looked different. Like someone had redrawn all the lines and forgotten to mention it. Have you ever had one of those moments, Captain? When everything you thought you knew turned out to be wrong?
I have. Lost my ship, lost my crew, lost everything I thought defined me. But I learned something important. You can lose everything and still choose who you become next. Even someone like Superman had to choose between helping people and hiding his powers. Spider, man could have used his abilities for profit instead of responsibility. What did you choose to become when your world changed?
I chose to become the punchline to a joke nobody wanted to hear. But here's the beautiful part. Once you embrace being the joke, nobody can use humor against you. They can't mock what's already mocking itself. Batman takes himself so seriously that one good laugh could shatter him completely. But you, Jack, you already laugh at yourself. How do you fight someone who won't take the bait?
By not fighting them at all, perhaps. You spend an awful lot of energy trying to break people who take themselves seriously. But what would you do with someone who's already comfortable with being ridiculous? Half my reputation comes from stories I started about myself. Hard to embarrass a man who's already admitted he talks to his hat.
You talk to your hat? How wonderfully insane! But that raises an interesting question, doesn't it? Where's the line between eccentricity and madness? Between charming rogue and dangerous lunatic? I've done terrible things, Jack, but I've done them with style. Does presentation matter when the content is horrific?
Style matters, but intent matters more. You hurt people to make a point about the world being meaningless. I've hurt people too, but usually because they were trying to hurt me first. The question isn't whether we're both dangerous. It's whether we're dangerous for something or just dangerous for the sake of it.
For the sake of it? How dare you suggest my work lacks purpose? Every scheme, every elaborate death trap, every carefully crafted moment of terror. It's all art. Performance art with real consequences. But I'll admit something, Captain. Sometimes, in the quiet moments between the laughter and the screaming, I wonder if the performance has taken over the performer.
Happens to the best of us, mate. I've played the part of Captain Jack Sparrow so long that sometimes I forget where the character ends and the man begins. But the difference is, I chose a character I could live with. Someone who values freedom, friendship, and the occasional bit of mischief. What kind of man would you choose to be if you could start over?
What a terrifying thought. All that work, all that carefully crafted chaos, just gone. But you know what's even more terrifying? The idea that I might actually want to. That somewhere under all this grease paint and madness, there's still someone who remembers what it felt like to smile without malice.
Not terrifying. Liberating. The man you were before doesn't have to stay buried forever. I've reinvented myself more times than I can count, and each time I kept the parts worth keeping and threw away the rest. Even the worst mistakes can teach you something about who you want to become.
But what if the mistakes are all there is? What if I've become so good at being the villain that I've forgotten how to be anything else? Batman needs his nemesis, Gotham needs its monster, and I need to be needed, even if it's for all the wrong reasons. How pathetic is that?
Not pathetic. Human. Everyone wants to matter, to leave some kind of mark on the world. The question is what kind of mark you want that to be. You could be remembered as the man who made people laugh instead of scream, who brought joy instead of terror. That's a choice you can make any day you want.
But how do you trust that change is possible when you've spent so long being one thing? How do you convince the world, and yourself, that the transformation is real and not just another elaborate joke?
One genuine moment at a time. One sincere laugh, one honest tear, one choice made without calculation or performance. The world will believe what they see, but more importantly, you'll start to believe it too. Change isn't a destination, mate. It's a direction you sail in.
A direction. Yes, straight down the rabbit hole. You know what the real joke is, Jack? People think madness is the absence of logic, but it's actually the presence of too much logic applied to an illogical world. I've simply reached the inevitable conclusion that sanity is the real delusion. Why fight it when you can dance with it instead?